Hey everyone and welcome to the channel. I think at some stage or another, anyone that gets into these types of projects has made their own little scribing tool, and I'm no exception. But I do have a new tool that I want to have a little play with. So let's see if I can't make these simple little tools into something a lot harder than it needs to be. If that sounds like something you're into, hang around to see how this one turns out. I'll start off with a little 1/2 inch cold rolled steel in the collar chuck, and get it faced and drilled for a 5mm reamer. The part we're working on here will make up the grip at the business end of the scribe. So with a central bore drilled, I'll give it a little texture with a knurl. I haven't done a huge amount of planning on this project at all. I'm just kind of feeling my way. So I'll knurl the majority of the length of the part, and then I can bump into it from both ends to leave a nice transition between the knurled and turned surfaces. That looks pretty good. So now I'll taper the end. Again, there isn't anything specific here. Just what I'm thinking looks like an appropriate amount to get us down to about 6.5mm on the small end, without removing too much of the knurling on the large end. And while it's far from perfect, I did get some advice in the comments from the tailstock die holder video about using a cordless drill to drive the top slide as a power feed, and it's really lifted my tapered surface finish game. That's looking pretty tapery, so I'll give it a little chamfer, part it off, and get it flipped in the chuck. You can probably see from this angle that I didn't make it quite all the way through with the drill on this one, but I'll fix that one in a sec, because you know, good planning and everything. But I'll just turn down a little section here for an M10 thread to bring this tip and body together. Then bump in a little runoff for the die nut, then get this thread cut. It's only a few turns, so a handheld die holder should make this easy game. And that part is done, so now I can get on to making the body of the scribe. Nothing really complicated here. I'll whiz the center out with a series of drills and ream to 8mm for the sliding pin that's eventually going to be attached to a little bolt part that will protrude through the sidewall of the body. I'm not turning down the OD of this rod, as I'm hoping to attach the two pieces together and turn them as one piece a little later on. Then I can tap a matching thread that we just cut on the tip and get these screwed together and set up as one part. It does look like we've gotten a little wonky somewhere along the ways, but that's why I saved this to do in one shot. I'm also hoping that doing it this way will help to blend the joint in the two parts together, making it a little less visible and hopefully smooth to the touch. With that somewhat concentric, time to jump over to the mill and see if we can get this next operation done without scrapping the part. So this is my new tool of the week. I got myself a dividing head. This was the finest one that was available within my budget. And check it out, it even comes with a teal stock. Not even the big brands seem to come with one of those. Even though it's a cheap little one, I'm sure it'll meet all of my dividing head needs for quite some time. With that dialed in and the body of the scribe chucked up, I can get to work on this little J slot. We can find center and get a starting hole drilled to take a little pressure off the slotting end mill. I probably didn't need to drill this, but I do find that when I plunge straight into something with a slotting mill, it does seem to oversize the start hole a little, so hopefully this helps. And then I can get on to milling this out. You can see my super technical Sharpie on there as a guide of which way to go, because well, I know I'll go the wrong way if I don't have some kind of reference. This whole process had me pretty nervous. It doesn't seem complicated in theory to mill something like this, but I know as soon as I think something like that, it all falls apart. But I'll just run down the long side, rotate the dividing head about 45 degrees, and come back up to form the shorter area of the J. And that actually went heaps better than I thought it would. Let's see if I can add a little chamfer. I don't really have much in the way of small chamfering tools, but I do have this little carbide doohickey that I can't remember why I have it, so that'll have to do. And I didn't really go deep enough, but there is a micro chamfer on there. It's knocked the burrs off, and I don't feel like pressing my luck too much further for now, so I'll take it. Now I can get to the little pin that the bolt part of the bolt action will attach to. This is a really simple part. I'll just chuck up a little piece of ground 8mm stainless rod to match the reamed hole in the body of the scribe, face it to length on both ends, and add a little chamfer to help it slide nice and smooth. Rather than spend too much time measuring, I'll drop it into the body and tap it all the way down to the bottom of the bore, and mark the highest point of the J-slot with a Sharpie. Now that should give us the maximum height for the sliding part, so I'll put it back into the dividing head for no reason other than it's still set up, and drill the part for an M3 thread. Small taps still scare me. It's not like I have a lot of time in this part or anything, but I would still prefer to not snap this one off. But I'll take it slow with a heap of oil and back it out frequently to hopefully not trash this thing. Ugh, what was I even worried about? I didn't even break one tap. Now I can go back into the collet chuck and get drilled for the end of the hardened scribe. I know I'm jumping around a little here, but I wanted that little hole drilled so I knew the exact depth that everything would sit in the disengaged position. And that's it for that part. So now I can get onto the hardened pin. For the pointy bit of the scribe, I'm using some pre-hardened music wire. I really need to get some smaller diameter hardenable steels, but this is all that seems to be available to me locally, and I didn't think ahead enough to order it online. Now I have spot drilled the end of this rod, but I don't have any drills hard enough to make a good center drill, so it is rubbing a bit on the live center. I'll make the end of the pin that's seeing all the friction the end that isn't sharpened, as the excess heat will ruin the temper on the steel, but with a sploob of high temperature grease, it doesn't seem to be doing anything too weird. This stuff does not want to break a chip at all apparently, but I haven't got far to go at least. Now I probably could have cut this point on the lathe, but apparently old habits die hard. Over on the handheld lathe, I'll just cut this until it looks nice and sharp. Nope, more speed. Let's try a mean 36 grit. That works. And then clean up on the higher grits. And that looks pretty darn stabby. Now I can have a little test fit to make sure it all works. And don't mind that screw. It's just here to hold everything in place. I'll make something nicer shortly. Hey, that's pretty cool. It could use a little more stick out, but I'll take it. Now I do want to be able to get this all apart in the future if I ever need to make a new pointy bit, so I'll just glue it together with a little retaining compound to hold it in place and leave it to dry. And the last part before finishing, I've just got myself a little M3 stainless bolt that if I roll around in my fist enough, I should be able to make the head round and give us a nice little button that will stick through the slot to act as a lever. Is it a lever? The part I'll press on to make it work. But anyways, I've cut the excess material off the body of the scribe and now I can clean up the end. I should really have a go at making some radius forming tools, but this is just one part, so it shouldn't be too bad. I'll come in at an angle and cut a really wide chamfer, and then round it all off until it looks right with a file. That looks pretty good. One more quick test assemble before finishing to make sure it works before I have a go at gluing this thing. Into the body goes the pin assembly, and then the round-headed screw to hold it in place. It's looking pretty flash. Then I can drop in the spring that I probably should have made, but I don't have any small enough wire on hand. And I don't think that's ever going to get old. The action feels pretty slick, but let's see if we can make this whole thing a little cooler. Time to finish this thing. I've never used cold glue before, so let's see how this goes. I'll get everything nice and clean and prepped with isopropyl alcohol and get it applied. Wait a sec. I do remember people saying that black gloves can give you at least 50% better barbecue, and I probably need all the help I can get. Now that I have at least a 25% better chance of getting a good finish, I'll brush it all over the parts, leave it to sit for a sec, and get it into some water. And that finish looks more uneven than I would have hoped for. So let's rough it up and try again. And we aren't messing around this time. We're rocking 2 black gloves for a guaranteed success. And it looks a bit better. So I'll get them dunked into some water and then into some oil to seal them, or whatever that part does. And with my powers of foresight, I didn't think to grab any oil for this. And the lightest oil I have around is this hydraulic oil, which is probably wrong, but it does have a nice green tint at least. I'll leave the parts to marinate overnight and check on them tomorrow. It's the next morning, and these should have absorbed maximum flavour. Hey, maybe this oil wasn't a bad choice. Surely this is the same as zinc plating. That's how they do it. I'll wipe it down and get it put together for the last time. The only difference here is a little retaining compound, because it's the closest thing I have to thread locker on hand to hold the button screw in place. And that looks pretty cool. I did mess up a little when gluing my pointy hardened section into the sliding pin. My fit was pretty tight, but I must have gotten a little air pocket that stopped the hardened pin going all the way to the bottom, and I'm rocking a little bit of stick out. I think it'll only be there for one sharpen, and then it'll pull back inside the body, so I'm not too worried. But the bolt action itself works pretty nice. It's not perfect, but considering how close all the fits are inside the body of the scribe, it wouldn't take much for this to want to bind up, so I'll take that as a win. And now I guess we need to see if this works, so here goes. And would you look at that, a scribed line. We've gone the hard way around to get here, but I suppose it's all about the journey, not the destination. Thanks for hanging out everyone. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. See you on the next one!